Hello everyone and welcome to Nerdy Boys Reviews. We're your hosts. I'm Nerdy Boy Christian.
And I'm Nerdy Boy Saga.
And this is Nerdy Boys Reviews, your nerd podcast where we talk about the new and old in nerd movies. Explicit content warning material on this podcast may not be suitable for all listeners of all ages. And spoiler warning, this podcast will be full of spoilery materials as well. So you have been warned. What's up, dude? How's it going?
What is up, fam?
It's been a while.
How goes it? Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks.
So,
for sure.
What's been going on? What's been happening lately?
Dude, so much stuff, bro. No, but yeah, man. Life has been pretty good, especially this weekend. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Got a new car.
Nice.
Pretty happy, and I feel very blessed to be in the position to be able to do such a thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Just like a little bit of background, like last year, you know, due to my own doing, you know, just like making like a lot of bad financial decisions and like, you know, just not doing what I should be doing.
Right.
Like, I was falling into like a lot of financial like trouble and like debt, and like my car got repossessed like about a year ago, and this year has been like a super big struggle. You know, I've had like a lot of blessings this year, but like, you know, with like the mountain of debt that I'm in, and then like not having a car, like just was like it felt like I was hitting rock bottom. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, pretty much, like, just being able to, like, build up and then, you know, save money and whatnot, and just, you know, having faith that, you know, everything is going to work out. Just everything ended up working out. I was able to get a car, you know, went through a couple different avenues, and then finally got a car. Here would be my suggestion to anybody out there that happens to be in like that same kind of predicament that I'm kind of describing.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who has like is like badly in debt, challenge credit, but you know it's like holding down a stable job and like can actually afford to, you know, make payments on the car and stuff. It's just like you just, you know, happen to make some bad mistakes, kind of thing.
Right.
I would, you know, if you're like town or city or local surrounding areas has a CarMax. It's like you know, it's a dealership like any others, but they like, I don't know, it's like hard to explain. It's like doing like car dealership, but like almost kind of like a rental place.
Right.
Like they just have like a huge assortment of like used cars. I think they do have new cars too. But like because of like how they're set up, they have contracts with like various like bank lenders,
Mm-hmm.
and like it makes it very easy for people who have good, fair, or challenge credit to get a car. It's like a super simple process. Like literally, this is the process. You go in, you meet with one of the representatives, and there's like 1,000 leaders in there, you know, and it's like you know you're always going to be helped, and you pretty much they give you their card with like their personal number on it. You go out to the car lot and you go pick out the car that basically you want to test drive and you want.
Mm-hmm.
You call them up, they'll bring out the keys, you'll test drive it. You know, you'll go back with that person and like they'll show you everything that they're inputting. And like that's probably one of the best things about CarMax is like you don't feel like you're getting dicked around, because I don't believe like the salesmen make commission. From my understanding, like they don't make commission, so it's like they have no reason to oversell you on a car.
Right.
To be honest, like I'm sure, like it's like some sort of scheme of some sort. I don't really know how it works, but like it's just like, you know, being able to see like the bank lenders' offers and stuff, and you know you can go there with zero down. You'll probably have a way higher payment if you try to do that. You know, I went in with some money down. And I was able to I got two offers. Like one of the bank lenders wanted way more money than I could have ever afforded. So I was like, had to deny that one. And then so I took the second option, you know, waited around for maybe like 30 minutes, signed papers, Anybody that's ever bought a car will know, dude, paperwork sucks, dude. It always takes hours, right? We were done in 10 minutes for paperwork, dude.
Yeah.
Not even joking, dude. It took 10 minutes. He quickly explained, he's like, if you don't understand something, if you want to know more about a section that I'm trying to explain to you, you need to stop me. You need to explain. You need to, like, say, slow down, this, and this. But, he's just, like, saying, this is this section, this is what you're signing, and you're quickly just going through it pretty much, dude. And it's, like, it's a much more condensed version of, like, what you deal with at the car dealerships. Like, that you sign, like, the same thing, like, 1,000 times, it seems like.
Yeah.
They cut out all that excess fat, it seems like, of, like, signing a lot of the same documents that are, like, literally telling you the same thing, but you're just signing it again and again and again. It seems like they cut a lot of that out. It was super quick. They even, like, detailed and washed the car. They gassed it up to full for me. Like, it was a super dope process. So, like, anybody looking for a car, honestly, dude, I would recommend CarMax, dude. You'll be able to get something there. And I'm pretty sure you'll find something that you like there, too.
Right.
So,
well,
I was able to get a 2010 Toyota Corolla, and we really wanted to stay in the Toyota brand, and that's just because, like, they last forever. They're such reliable cars. And, with the baby coming in, like, a couple weeks, that was just, like, that's what we wanted to do. So.
Yeah, definitely need something reliable. Like, the only time I really had, like, a long paperwork process buying a car was my first car when I got my Fiat. That took a while. And I remember, like, it wasn't even the paperwork that took a while, but remember they had to sit there for, like, an hour or something to, like, waiting to do the paperwork. Like,
dude, well, it's funny, too. I went to a regular dealership the day before I went to CarMax, right? And I went to a Toyota dealership, and they really made it seem like they were going to be able to get a deal done for me.
Right.
And they were just like, well, they kept asking if I had a cosign. I kept like telling them, no, I don't have a cosign, and all this stuff. And basically, the short of the story is like they're like, well, can you come back? We need to wheel and deal with the bank lender. Like, they want to be able to accept it, but they need a car that matches their criteria that makes sense for them. And I was like, okay, understandable, right? So next day, pretty much just over and over again, get calls from them saying, oh, give us more time, all this stuff, dude. It hit like 12:30, and I was like tired of waiting because we stopped hearing from them.
Yeah.
And we're just like, they're like, oh, you're going to have to wait till Monday now. And it's like, we're just saying, like, you're going to get a deal done today. So, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to go shop somewhere else while you're trying to do that. And he's like, I understand. And, like, he didn't even try to stop me, dude. I was just like, okay, that tells me they had no deal in place. There was not going to be a deal. I think they were just hoping that I lost interest.
Yeah. Well,
which I did. I was just like, I'm not going to wait around, waste my time, waste my whole weekend that was like predicated on getting a car.
Yeah. Was that in Folsom?
Yeah. I went to Elk Grove Toyota, which is a family-owned one, and like they were even stricter, And they told me, they're like, oh, you should go to Folsom Lake Toyota because they're not a family-owned one. And so it really seemed like I was going to get a deal, right? And like they really made me feel like I was going to get a deal, which was kind of disappointing, but it is what it is, and everything happens for a reason. And I know not all our listeners are going to be like religious or whatever, but I personally am. And dude, I just like straight up give like the glory to God, man. Like I feel so freaking blessed, and I really feel like everything happens for a reason. Because, like, I sat there and prayed and prayed and prayed. Yeah. And I was, like, telling them, I was like, if there's no way, make a way for me. And I just kept faith, and I believed. And lo and behold, bro, there's, like, no way for Toyota to do it. But then, boom, there's a way from CarMax. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like those little things where it's like, damn.
Yeah.
He's looking out for me.
Yeah, we had to
go.
Anyways,
I don't want to get too much into that stuff.
Right. Yeah, we had to go to Kia in Elk Grove because my fiance, yeah, that's right, guys, I got engaged since last time we podcasted.
Freaking dropping bombs. Married boys are making moves. 2019, the best years of both of our lives.
Yes. So my fiance, her car has been running like sluggish, and it's like about 60K miles. So we're like, what the hell is like going on? Like maybe it needs a tune-up or something. So we took it in for like a 60K service, and like they're like, okay, this is all that's included. And then we're like, oh, does it need a tune-up because it's been running like sluggish? We're like, no, it shouldn't need a tune-up till like 100,000. And they're like, well, we'll check out, like, see what's wrong with it. And then, so this took them, like, 3.5, 4 hours. And then they said, okay, so we saw, like, the service record from when you took it to the one in Folsom, the Kia in Folsom. And they said they collected money on a recall saying that they updated your computer in your car, but they didn't do it. And they said, we did it, and your car runs fine now.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know what the fuckeries that's going on in Folsom, but like,
dude, that's hella sketch, bro. That's really sketch, man. I would, if I was in that predicament, bro, I would march over there, bro. First off, I would have had whichever Kia dealership you went to, the service department. I would have them notated that too. Yeah. Like records indicate Folsom updated the computer, software or whatever it be. Yeah. And like you should keep records of that kind of thing, because when something like this happens, you can now like go back and like get a reimbursement from them. Like you didn't even do the work you claimed you did. Right. Like, you should have trying to rob me.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know, maybe like that, because when you said like that's why I asked if you went to like the Kia Toyota, because I don't know if like it's a whole like. I don't know if it's like that area that like is always like, well, we can do this, and then they just don't do it, But
right, yeah, I don't know, man, dude, that's crazy.
Right.
Wow, I was not expecting you to say all that.
Yeah.
But dude, like the big news, though, you got engaged, bro.
Yeah, we moved.
Congratulations, and everybody listening, make sure you hit Nerdy Boy Christian up on Twitter, and say congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah.
I couldn't think of a better guy that deserves such an amazing occasion to celebrate.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I'll let you know when the engagement party is, because I'm sure we're gonna have one of those. And yeah. Something like that. But yeah, it's exciting. Not so exciting. We moved, and now we are in a new place, which I guess is like kind of exciting. But moving sucks, and I hate it. And it was raining, and it took me 3 days. And yeah, so boo.
Well, but the thing is like, I mean, without like disclosing like where, but like at least you're closer to work,
Right. Yeah, I'm closer to
work. Which is like a good thing, and I feel like where you lived before, like it really wasn't like the best.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, which is nothing new for us. I mean, we lived off Mac for the longest.
Right. Yeah.
But like, I mean, downtown is like no better, especially like the urban population.
Yeah. I mean, like when we lived off Mac Road, all it was is like crazy people at the gas station late at night, like causing issues and shit. But like when we lived in Midtown, like, dude,
like you feel like there's like an actual chance for you to get mugged.
Yeah, well,
because, like, and the way his like apartments was like the freaking parking lot was in the back of an alley, dude.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's so sketch, dude. This is like how conflict you start.
Even on like the main city street, my girlfriend, where she parked, she got out of her car one day, and there was someone literally shooting up heroin like on the street right next to her car. Like shit's crazy, like the homeless problem in Sacramento. But that's not what we're here to talk about, guys.
Oh yeah, did we even announce what we're even talking about?
No, not yet. But it's it's in the title of the podcast, obviously. But we're here to talk about The Rise of Skywalker, Star Wars Episode 9. Full of spoilers here for you guys, and
full of spoilers. I repeat, full of spoilers. So if you haven't watched it, dude, you guys should pause this podcast, go to your nearest cinema, and freaking watch it, and then come back and join us again for the discussion. And join us on Twitter. You can always reach us at Nerdy Boys Reviews.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, coming into this movie, obviously, like, there's a lot of people that had a bad taste in their mouth from The Last Jedi and stuff, and other people who loved The Last Jedi. So, it's classic case of Star Wars fans hating each other and hating everything else, which, I mean, whatever, that it is what it is. But this is one of those things where, like, I don't know, there's like the kind of this revisionist history of Star Wars where people are like wanting to know what George Lucas would have done, right? And
Right.
the thing is, like, I don't know if people forget, but George Lucas sold Star Wars because the fans literally tore him up so much that he felt like they don't care about his vision of Star Wars. That's why he sold it. So this whole thing.
Well, I mean, I think fandoms are such a fickle thing, dude, and on the subject of fandom, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to go on a quick rant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because you don't have a history of like reading the books or reading the comic books or whatever, watching a previous like installment of a movie or whatever, doesn't mean you cannot go and watch said movie or TV show and still have an intellectual opinion about it.
Exactly.
So the reason I mentioned this, dude, is because my girlfriend, dude, I was so mad about this, dude. It wasn't even because it was my girlfriend, It was because the indignant, like, statement of this person, dude. And I don't remember, like, the exact statement. It's going to be, like, a paraphrase kind of it. So basically, it was about the new Witcher series on Netflix, right?
Uh-huh.
And there was, like, some, like, article that was, like, claiming it to be the new Game of Thrones, right?
Right.
So my girlfriend, who is a very, avid Game of Thrones
viewer
fan, was like, The Witcher is nowhere near as good as the Game of Thrones. She's like, The Witcher was like all over the place, and then she said, from what my brother told me, it's based off of a video game or something like that, and she said, LOL. And this indignant jackass, dude, was like, basically saying, like, you need to get your facts straight. The Witcher is based off of a best-selling novel. So before you open your mouth about anything that you don't know anything about, why don't you do your research? I was so mad about this, dude. I went off on this fucking person, dude. I was like, and it's funny because how I tied it in with Star Wars, dude.
Right.
I was just like, it was just funny, dude. I was like going off, I was like, you know how fucking ignorant your statement is, dude? And I was like basically telling them, I'm like, just because she doesn't know where the source material comes from doesn't mean that she can't have an intellectual opinion about said show, that she feels that like the beat to beat moments were like skewed and all over the place, and she had an opinion about that. And then she mentioned that her brother told her, not that she is claiming to know that it was from a video game, it was somebody else told her that it was based off of a video game. And let's be honest, the only reason that this fucking thing, the Witcher series, even got a fucking series is because it's huge video game following.
Right.
So just to be like, it's based off of a novel. I'm sorry, dude, but I doubt that fucking novel would have ever gotten its own Netflix series because it's a best-selling. How many every new book is best-selling? That's how they market books. You know what I mean?
Well,
they claim it's a bestseller.
Yeah, I
read. It was just the fact that.
I read the thread of you guys arguing with this guy.
You read that? Dude, I was so mad.
I read it because, he was, obviously, like, I feel like Kanara just wanted to fuck with him after, like, the second message he sent. And, like...
yeah, because, dude, she's, like, a huge Facebook troll, dude. She loves the fucking Facebook drama, dude.
Right, yeah.
But sometimes, like, people just, like, make, like, outlandish statements towards her, dude, and I'm just like... So, like, sometimes, like, when I see it, and even if it wasn't her and it was somebody else and I still seen that statement, I still would have said the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that this person felt the need to say something in the first place tells me he has this kind of elite nerd mentality where, like, oh, well, exactly, if you blah, blah, blah. Like, to me, like, it's meaningless because the game is inspired by the book and the TV show is inspired by the book. Okay, so the game which is inspired by the book, is related to the TV series, right? So I don't really get what he's trying to say in the first place. But if you're going to say that, if you're going to correct somebody, you say, like, if it was me, which I'm not saying you have to be like me and that I'm correct or whatever, anybody who might get triggered, but, like, if it was me, I'd be like, oh, well, it was a book series first, and then if Kanara or whoever said something, like, oh, well, I was just saying what my brother told me, whatever, I say, okay, no worries, have a good day. Like, the fact that he felt the need to continue to say something, like, he was clearly, like, bothered or angry about something, and, like...
Right, yeah, exactly, dude, and, like, felt that, like, because she didn't know where it came from, she wasn't allowed to have an opinion on it.
Right.
And then, like, that's how I tied Star Wars into that whole matter. It was like, I'm like, dude, that's basically like the same thing that a huge following of like Star Wars elitist fan base like does, dude. Where,
yeah.
Like, they feel like if you haven't watched the originals or if you haven't read the extended universe of books and comic books, then you don't know as much as them. And you cannot have a clear-cut opinion and stuff. And I was like, and that is what is completely wrong with most fandoms.
There's Star Wars fans that also believe if you enjoy the prequels at all, that you're not a Star Wars fan. Like,
right.
But dude, it's Star Wars. Like, even if they're bad movies, don't you love Star Wars for what it is? Like, aren't you going to still enjoy those movies? Which I don't really get. Like, Star Wars fans hate everything Star Wars. They hate the 1997 special editions of Star Wars. They hate the 2011 special editions of Star Wars. They hate the prequels. They hated The Force Awakens until The Last Jedi, and then they hate The Last Jedi and love The Force Awakens all of a sudden because J.J. Abrams set up so much.
It is, right? So I think we had some sub-conversation, and we both hit it like right on the head, dude. I don't remember where this conversation took place, if it was whatever, but I think it was you that had mentioned. So what happens, right? And then this is where I tie in that Star Wars like series and everything is so overly romanticized about like the originals that they're so great that fans put them on such a high level of a bar. You know what I mean? That it's impossible for anything to ever meet those expectations. So anything that's not the originals, people are never going to like. It doesn't matter how good the film is. It doesn't matter if it's a cohesive story. It doesn't matter if it's quintessentially Star Wars. It doesn't matter if George Lucas wrote it, Tom, Dick, or Harry wrote it, or fucking Chanel down the street wrote it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It doesn't matter because people overly romanticize and remember the original series for this grand. It's like the pinnacle of all like series, right? It's like what almost any trilogy is ever compared to and based off of and graded off of is the Star Wars trilogy, the original trilogy, and it's just like, damn, that's where you want to reach,
right?
But then the bar over time is just like raised. Nothing is ever going to meet that standard. Never.
Yeah, and
I promise it.
What it is it's a small group of fans that are really, really loud, all right? And these are the same people that drove George Lucas to sell Star Wars. These are the same people that drove people off of social media after The Last Jedi and tweeted all this bad stuff about Rian Johnson. Like, there's just this toxicity in the fandom, and I know exactly where this conversation came from. It came from an article you sent me where J.J. Abrams was asked about the negative criticism of The Rise of Skywalker. And he said the fans that have negative thoughts and negative opinions, they're right. And the people who have happy thoughts and happy opinions, they're right too. They're all right. And what I said to you is that fans have elevated Star Wars to such a high and unachievable standard that nothing they ever do will ever please people.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I remember it. I remember that conversation happened. I don't remember how it happened or where it happened. I was just like, I don't remember it happening.
Yeah. It happened just because of what J.J. Abrams said, and I agree with him. Like, people who didn't like this movie, their opinions are valid, and people who loved it, their opinions are valid. All of our opinions are valid because we're fans. But when it becomes toxic, there's no room for conversation. You know.
Right.
And that brings me, because, similar to what happened with your girlfriend on Facebook, I posted on Twitter, just like, hey guys, there's a lot of negativity and toxicity out there. Like, here's a positive photo of me and my friends at Rise of Skywalker, sharing the love, whatever. And somebody commented on my shit and said, just because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't mean they're toxic. And I agree with that person, but what the fuck does that have to do with anything I posted?
Right, dude? I got so triggered, dude. I'm not even lying, dude. I got triggered by that dude posting that, dude. I said something. I was like, what the fuck?
Like, to me, this is a person who is, like, entrenched in the toxicity of arguing about Star Wars, probably, and thought my comment was about me arguing with somebody about Star Wars and how they disagreed, so they're toxic. But that has nothing to do with what I said. All I said is there's toxicity and negativity, so let's just be positive and share some love. And then he's like, because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't mean they're toxic. No, it doesn't. But when the conversation devolves into just bickering and name calling, and nobody's open to anything, or no discussion. There's no discussion to have. So then it becomes toxic, and nobody needs that in their life. Like we live in a world where everything causes cancer: meat and cigarettes and alcohol and everything. You know what really causes cancer is toxicity. Like, cut that shit out of your life.
Pretty much.
But, see, this is what happens with Star Wars, though. We haven't even talked about the movie yet, because there's so much that surrounds Star Wars that has nothing to even do with the actual films themselves. So, I guess we should get into the movie now.
Alright, so, what were your thoughts on this film? Did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the movie.
Dog shit, that fucking wrapped in bacon movie.
I enjoyed the movie quite a lot, and as it sat with me the past week and a half, I've realized, yeah, it does move kind of fast. There are kind of plot holes and things like that, but it doesn't bother me. There are certain things that I'm just like, really? Okay, whatever. Which some people call fan service, and I don't think it's fan service necessarily, but that's what people want from these movies, isn't it? Like, isn't that why people hated The Last Jedi? Is because it didn't serve fans what they wanted enough? Like, I don't know. Again, you're never going to please everyone. But, yeah, I mean, we can kind of go through some of the things that happened and talk about if we liked them or not. But what were your overall thoughts of the movie?
See, this is one that, baffled me, right? Because it's leaving the movie, I was fairly happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, it is, interesting, and, whatnot. But, and then, as soon as I started, deeply thinking about it, I was just like, what the fuck, dude? The fuck was this movie? Because, okay, the number one thing, right? So, it's so hard because it's you can enjoy something completely terrible, right?
True.
You can acknowledge it's terrible, but you can still enjoy it, right? But did I think it was good? I don't know. I don't know. I still maybe don't know exactly, and maybe this podcast is the thing that'll help me decide it.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where the movie is so beautiful and it looks nice and it feels cool and the music is great. So you kind of get swept up in it. But then when you're left thinking about it, you're like, yeah, why is Palpatine back? And what's happening?
Whoa, spoilers, dude.
Well, we did warn them twice.
Just kidding, because we already warned you fuckers, so suck my dick.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, guys. That's kind of toxic.
It's, no, it's a joke. Okay, guys, don't get triggered. It's okay.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, where I'm at is the movie itself, when you're watching it, it's fun, it's enjoyable. But then when you sit with it, okay, I don't agree with people who said this movie is bad because they segregate all the black people and all the people of color and stuff to be the ground force, and then all the other people are somewhere. To me, that's all utter bullshit that people are intersecting and interjecting into this bullshit. I actually read this argument from someone we know on Instagram who was saying
no.
Yeah, so.
Oh no.
Oh
no. Okay, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Is this person a cosplayer?
Yeah, we saw them before the movie.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
God, I haven't read this. Whatever they said, I haven't read that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We won't reveal who it is though.
No. Yeah, but
Because we don't want them to like receive a bunch of hate and stuff.
no.
Because they're good people.
Yeah. But obviously it's all opinion. Like I don't agree with
That's
it, but
horseshit, dude. Oh, okay. And on that topic, right? This whole bullshit movement, and quote unquote, I call it a bullshit movement because I really don't believe there's a movement of fans, right? This whole hashtag where is Rose bullshit.
yeah.
And,
Look,
yeah.
Rose served her purpose in The Last Jedi. She said her line that people either rolled their eyes at or were like, "Oh my God, that's sweet," and whatever. But her purpose in the Resistance as a whole, what is it? Like Dominic Monaghan was in this movie. He barely had any lines too. Who cares? Rose is not a main character. She doesn't have to be.
Right? So people were like, dude, there was some like utter bullshit that I read on this film, dude, regarding Where is Rose shit, dude, that like literally just sent me into overdrive. I was just like, what? This is so ridiculous. Like, okay, first off, let me tell you guys something. Just because a character is introduced into a grander scheme story does not mean said character needs their own storyline. They need more screen time for the sake. Literally, everyone's argument is literally for the sake of diversity, dude. And like, it drives me crazy, dude. Like, I understand everyone wants to be represented, right? Everyone wants it, dude. But it's like, because they excluded Rose, dude, I don't see how people, first off, I don't understand how people could have felt such a deep connection of like resonance with the Rose character through one film that they felt that she was so misrepresented, that the femininity dynamic, the whole feminine like woman power shit, was completely demolished by this. And the fact that, she's a minority, that because she wasn't represented so well, like she didn't get all the same screen time that she received in The Last Jedi, means that like somehow the movie is diminished, right? And then there's this whole movement because people are so upset about Rose, right? It's like, first off, her character's not that interesting.
Right.
Her character is not that interesting. She does nothing innately special, right? Other than venture around and lust after fucking Finn, right? And let's be honest, all these movies really, what they really were about is the harrowing tale of a young lad curving these bitches just to get to Rey. That's the true story of Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, I think to be honest, like part of what you're saying like is kind of true in the way that your enjoyment of this trilogy is going to largely be based on how much you buy Rey, Finn, and Poe as a trio of heroes. Like if you don't like them, you probably aren't very invested in this story at all. So,
right, they're the main characters, right? And then you have your main villainry, right?
Right.
That's like saying the guy who that turned out to be the traitor, right? That's like saying he should have got more screen time than he. That's that's how I feel about that. You know what I mean? It's like he's just a subplot character. He's just a, you know what I mean?
Right. In this movie,
he's just a character in the greater scheme. Doesn't mean that they need their own series, and that's where I'm kind of going with this, because there is some director or something that has already approached Disney about Rose getting her own series. And I'm not even kidding right now, dude.
I've heard of this. Yeah. I've heard of this.
And I think it's, what on earth can her story as a series that would make it remotely interesting, other than if they change who she is and her significance and her importance, which is impossible because you already see how the future plays out.
Right, and
you can't go back and like make her of some, significant importance, because that doesn't work because you've already seen how it plays out. So the other option is to then create her character into something that she's totally not. You know what I mean? In the future.
Right. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me because this is a movie that had a lot to do. It was 2.5 hours long, and I'm sorry, we don't have time to just interject all this stuff with a character who really isn't making much of a difference. What do you want her to be, part of our band of heroes? Like, it's not what she never was. She never will be. I'm sorry. Like, this is not how it is. Like,
people are like saying like how the Rose and Finn love story was like incomplete, but it's like
it's not a love story.
Never even liked her like that. It was a one-sided love story.
Yeah, just like him and Ray. He loves Ray. Ray doesn't love him. Like, it's just how it is. Like, oh, and
like literally, it's just like, it's so annoying, dude. It's so annoying, dude. I find it like beyond fucking annoying, dude. That people feel so casual about the fact that a minority character and a woman character at that their screen time wasn't as significant or important as, you know, what it was in the last film. So that means that the film is inherently discriminating against those people.
Yeah, I mean,
that's essentially what they're interjecting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
it's really fucking annoying.
Like, I'm sorry, the only people I see actually complaining about this stuff are like simp men and like white women. Like, I'm not saying that Asian women don't claim to want more representation, but I don't see it as often. So, is this some white guilt thing?
It's the social justice warriors, bro. And like, I don't even buy into all those like labels and shit, dude. But it literally is those people that are infuriated about it. You know what I mean?
Right, and you're gonna have the people.
Nobody cares. I looked online, bro. Once I seen this article about Larry Rose and how and by the way, this fucking article came from fucking comic book resources, bro.
Of course.
And this is just another reason I can't fucking stand that fucking company, dude.
Of course, yeah.
In their journalism, quote unquote journalism, right? They interject their opinions so harshly into their fucking writing, dude. It's just an opinion piece, dude. That's all it is, bro. It's just that person's opinion into their writing, and it's just like, dude, that company, dude.
Yeah.
This is why we get our news from elsewhere other than comic book resources, even though they are a very reliable source of like news and everything, but like they taint the news with all their own opinions.
Right. And like,
you know what I mean?
This is the thing, right? It's okay like to have that opinion, but when you're so entrenched in this like world of having to argue with everybody you see online who disagrees with you and tell them why they're wrong and tell them why they're bigots and why they're sexist and why they're racist, like you just live in a pool of toxicity all the time, and that's not good for you. Like, you need to, like, I don't know, like, it just doesn't, and it logically, the opinion doesn't make sense. Like, this is not J.J. Abrams saying, I hate Asian women, I'm gonna make sure she doesn't get screen time. Like, why would you ever think that? It doesn't make any sense. Like, and you're gonna have people who hate SJWs on the other side complaining that there was a woman stormtrooper because we heard one of the stormtroopers who was like a leader with a woman's voice, and they're gonna say, oh, it's feminism, like, just shut up.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking annoying, dude. I'm just sorry. I'm over it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, so that's just one point, dude. And like, it's like when I start thinking about the movie, it's like the less I like the movie, you know. And I think it was really, I think you kind of hit it right. It was like I got swept up in like the emotion of it being the end of the saga, right? And it like. And it was so, like, stunningly beautiful, and the effects were great, and the music was great, and, the acting was good.
Yeah.
Right? But then it's just like, when you actually look at the plot, you actually look at the beat-to-beat moments, it's like, oh, God, dude. It's like, can you fucking just kill me, dude?
Yeah, I think when you get more into it, like, it does just move so fast, you can't really think about what's happening. But then when you are left to think about it, you're like, well, this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense, and what is happening.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. And, like, so, in case, like, you're just kind of, like, not really understanding what Christian is saying, the biggest issue with this story is the pace of the story, right? It goes so fast that you literally have no time to digest what just happened or no time to build any sort of emotion about what happened, that they just, like, rip it away from you, right? So, for instance, the scene with Chewbacca, you think Chewbacca dies, right?
Right.
They ripped it away from you 2 seconds later, dude. They didn't even wait. They should have just killed Chewie at that point, in my opinion. It would have had a lasting impact. And then, I don't know if it was a joke or not. Oh, never mind. I just remembered why. Because I think the original actor for Chewie died, right? Is that what it is?
The original
You think,
actor.
like, the little meme? Okay, yeah, okay. That's what it is. I was about to say, dude. Because, like, I seen this, like, little picture online with, like, R2D2, I think, Chewie, and Leia. They all have, like, halos above their head.
Yeah.
As if they died. And I was like, what? I was like, and I just realized, okay, never mind. Sorry. That's kind of like a sub thing. But,
Yeah.
that's just, like, one of the many examples, right? Like,
well, I mean,
it's just like,
even when the movie starts, like, we're just like, all, the first 5-10 minutes of the movie, oh, there's the Emperor, and, like, okay, like, and then all this stuff is happening with Leia and Rey, and we're just like, okay, what's happening? Like, cool stuff, like, she's running around in a forest, and, like, like, you can't really blame them. They had to, like, work with what they had for, like, the Leia stuff, but you can tell it's, like, interjected in a weird way, like,
right.
and then, like, the lightsaber called to Rey in The Force Awakens, but in this movie she gives it back to Leia, like, oh, I'll get it when, like, I earned it, but, like, you already earned it, and, like, you did all the training on Octo with Luke, like, so why are you giving it back to Leia? Like, obviously there was a scene that they filmed where she gave it to Leia and said that. I don't know, but, like, it doesn't really make sense with the trilogy, and so,
right.
And then, like, with the Emperor, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say regarding Leia, right? And this one, I truly don't know how to feel about it because it's like, I almost feel like it's a moment of brilliance in the writing.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it's like, damn, is this really the tribute that you guys gave to Leia? You know what I mean? Like, so, like, her death scene was so kind of, like, instant, and it was just like, it almost, like, made, like, it was like an emotionless death, you know what I mean? Like, there was, like, I just felt like there was no impact behind it.
Well, and...
Like, and I remember thinking that in the film, and I'm, like, sitting there thinking, I'm, like, and it really, like, bugged me, and I was just, like, I don't know if I'm mad about this, or if I'm, like, they wanted it to be settled. Like, they didn't want this, like, big grand, like, oh, hey, look, the actor for Carrie Fisher, like, she passed away in real life.
Right. I feel like when she became one with the Force, that moment was less impactful than, like, when Rey and them returned and then, like, found out that she had passed. Like, but that like kind of happened fast, Like,
right.
we have a whole
like, yeah, go ahead.
We have, like, a whole ass scene in The Phantom Menace and another whole ass scene in Return of the Jedi where, like, we're burning, Qui-Gon Jinn's body and burning Darth Vader's body, like, as a ritual, and then we just, like, we don't do anything for Leia. We don't have a funeral. We don't do anything, right? Like, it's weird.
Right, yeah, exactly, dude. That's why I'm just like, it was just so kind of over that they almost, like, wanted to skip over it. And it's just like, I feel like the justice wasn't given to her. So it's like, it kind of makes me angry.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I don't know, dude. It's just like such a weird feeling you're left with, dude, because it's like, you do know that she, passed away in real life. And then, obviously you're going to kill her character and stuff. And it was, like, such an interesting kind of way to, like, have her go. But then there was, like, no, like you said, there was no, like, ritual. There was, like, no, like, memorial. And we didn't really stick around for the credits. Did they not even, like, give her, like, a credit scene, like, in memory of?
They might. I
If they
think.
didn't, that is some bullshit.
I
Dude.
think they did on The Last Jedi. I don't know if they did in this movie.
Dude, if they didn't, that is some bullshit because they should have, dude. That's wrong, dude.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like anybody, like if I feel like any member, well, one, it definitely should have been Carrie for sure because like it was so recent. But I don't know, dude. It's just like it really bugs me, dude. I'm just like everything felt so. That's the best way to put this. Is like there was just some really fucking cool moments in the movie, but then a lot of things are so hollow and emotionless that you're just like, okay.
Yeah, I've heard other people characterize it that way too. That it everything kind of just feels emotionless, and then but like where that person lost credibility with me is someone said like it's like the fight with Darth Maul at the end of Phantom Menace. They're like it's cool, but there's no emotion to it. I'm like, well, there doesn't really need to be, does there? Like it's just fucking badass, like, right? I mean,
What are you talking about? No, it is because he fucking sits there and kills Qui-Gon Jinn,
right? Yeah.
and then fucking.
Yeah,
And then fucking Obi-Wan, that totally loses
Yeah,
credit. Dude,
yeah.
what do you fucking mean there's no fucking emotion there, dude? He
Yeah,
really
I agree.
fucking screamed out, dude. Like, he was, like, in physical, like he was just, like, emotionally stuck, dude, at
Yeah.
that point. And he was so angry that, like, at least to, like, a lot of, I don't know, I disagree with that. I don't know. But
No,
that's
I'm
like
with you.
another
I'm with you.
conversation.
Yep.
Like,
But yeah, I mean, this
but I
movie.
just feel like overall this movie, like, it just suffered so harshly. And to be fair, right, this movie from the beginning, it was already set to fail, right? How can you possibly make a film that's supposed to be the ending chapter to a fucking, something that's been
Yeah,
being made for like
40 years.
how long now?
Yeah, 42
40
years.
years,
Yeah,
dude.
like, yeah, it's an
It's
impossible
supposed to wrap
task.
up every single little detail, right? It's supposed to wrap up every little detail, every little thing, every little story within there in this last film, right? And it already had gaping holes with its own trilogy, right? With its own trilogy.
Right.
And then you essentially bring back things and it's like they do a really piss poor job of explaining it. And I know how Palpatine is, but a lot of other people don't know how.
Right. Well, I mean, even back to Leia, like it's a small thing, but like it's really confusing. Why? Like she obviously dies using the rest of her power to get to send a message to Ben, right? And
Right, yeah.
and then I don't know if she sends the force projection of Han Solo or if Ben like it's part of his subconscious or something. We don't know that. It's not really made clear.
Right.
But she dies around that time. But why does she not become one with the Force until Ben becomes one with the Force? Because Ben is redeemed at that moment. He's not redeemed after he does all this other stuff. Like,
Right.
like why does she not why can she not fully rest and become one with the Force until Ben does? Like, why does Ben need to die for her to become like? It's a small detail, but like it's still confusing, like the timing. But yeah, anyway, on to the Emperor. Yeah, I understand and you understand, but I think it can still be confusing to people how he's back despite him kind of explaining it.
Right, yeah. So, I don't know the exact Sith Lord that mastered this, and I found this out not because I read it, because like I watched a lot of Star Wars, like YouTube videos and stuff, and they helped explain it. But I knew this before the film, So it's like when I seen it, I was like, okay, I get that.
Right.
But then I'm like, does anybody else understand this? Like,
yeah.
like
Well,
this was so poorly explained. I was like, I know how, but they didn't explain it. I'm just like, what? Like, so basically, there's like another Sith Lord that like, for like, I think like hundreds of years, dude, like just like continuously stole other people's life forces and like continued to like live. Like he basically figured out the whole immortality aspect of life, pretty much, and it's like achievable through the Force.
right. Yeah. So what he says in what Palpatine says in the movie is, the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural, which is a callback to in Revenge of the Sith, where he's explaining the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise, to Anakin, where he talks about how Darth Plagueis learned how to manipulate midichlorians to create life. Which is, we're supposed to say, oh, okay, so he's saying he's back and he's alive because he's learned how to manipulate midichlorians to make life or to suck life from other people. But, when you think about it, he was thrown down a shaft of the Death Star and we saw a big explosion. And so how is he alive? Really, how is he alive? Or was that Emperor a clone? Or did,
there's so many more questions you have surrounding it, and it's just really confusing. And you're just like, what?
Right, or is it like Voldemort, where some part of his soul lived on, and he was able to find a new body?
They perfectly explain it. They explain the process of they explain all that stuff.
Right.
But this is just piss poorly, quickly washed over, and you're just supposed to buy it, and you're just like, what? Are you even alive? Come on, dude. What is this shit?
Right,
dude?
and I feel like
and then let's not mention, dude. I told you, fucker, dude. This shit is a fucking remake of the original fucking series. This fucker, instead of I am your father, I am your grandfather. I'm like, dude, way to be super fucking original, by the way.
Yeah, I hate the idea of, I'm sorry, this is something I don't like. Even though I enjoy the movie, I don't enjoy that we make our universe smaller still. Why does everyone have to be related to each other? Can't we make... I understand we have to be connected to the Skywalkers because it's part of the Skywalker Saga, but we're done with Palpatine. Why does Rey have to be a Palpatine? Why can't she just be Rey? What's wrong with that?
Right, dude? It almost, loses some of the empowerment, right? Because then it's it almost makes it so you make the world smaller in the sense that it makes it seem like you have to be from a prominent bloodline to have badass powers, right?
Right.
Which is not the case.
Yeah.
Some people are just more special than other people, dude, and that's literally what it comes down to. When it comes down to the use of the Force and all that stuff, a lot of it is discovering new things. A lot of it's training. There's so many different aspects, right?
Right.
And so then, right, okay, so then I bring up training, right? And this is one of the most confusing fucking parts, right? Because as we know, the Sith follow the power of two.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be that way, but we are already established that it is the power of two, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there is one that wields the power and one that learns. So there's a master and an apprentice.
Right.
So when you sit there and reveal that Palpatine is still alive, and then he said that I sent Snoke, so it's so is he technically Snoke, or was Snoke an actual its own person? So then there's three fucking Sith, and then that's just confusing people because nobody, unless if you read the extended universe, dude, there's so many things that relate into the extended universe that it's seriously playing so unfair with the casual audience.
Right, yeah.
Because they will never fucking understand it unless they go and read those books.
Right, and if you, this is...
I'm telling
you. This is the thing, me and you used to argue about all the time is, if a story does not stand on its own, it's not good, if you need all this other material to make it make any sense to you, then it's not good. It's not a full story. And people can still enjoy it, and that's fine, but it's
No, that's where I disagree, right? Because what you're saying and what I was saying is completely different. So, because I remember, how we used to get in that argument, I used to refer to a story doesn't need to be fully told. It can go into another film, and that's okay. And on cliffhangers and stuff. And then that's what you're saying. But where I think this argument comes in, it's a little bit different because you're relying on other source material, which is different, than continuing into a sequel.
Right.
Or a trilogy.
Well, okay.
You know what I mean? That's a little bit different, in my opinion. You can tell me if I'm wrong.
No.
But,
You're right. My issue with cliffhangers is it's a beginning of a new story. Like even a story that continues, there should be still a self-contained story within that film. That there's a beginning, middle, and end, and then it continues. If there's a cliffhanger that just ends on the first beat of the next movie, then I don't like those, which is a personal preference. But yeah, well, no, I get what you're saying.
And technically, it's like this is supposed to be the end, but it wasn't even ended.
Right.
It's like so confusing.
Yeah.
All he did is just carry. Literally, they said this is going to be the end of the Skywalkers. I think they meant that in a very literal sense, as in they killed everyone off.
Right.
They didn't mean that it was like the story was wrapped up, because that story was not wrapped up, dude. They literally just killed everyone. Like, I find it kind of funny, right? It's like, what? It's just like, I mean, can you really expect anything else? It's just like, whatever, dude.
Right. Well, and again, it's another thing that doesn't really make sense, because Palpatine sucks life out of Rey and Kylo to bring him back to, look younger and get more power. But, like, they're fine. Now they're back up and fighting and everything's okay. And then Kylo falls down into a hole and comes back up. And then he gives some of his life force to Rey and he dies. Like, what?
Right, dude. Dude, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, that shit did not make fucking sense, dude. Because, like, there's no indication that he was, like, running low on life force, right? Like,
right.
Unless if I...
And Rey gave him some of her life force earlier in the movie. Like...
Right, dude? So then, that's why I'm like, dude, it leaves you so fucking confused, dude. You're just like, what? How did that kill him? Okay, and then they play super unfair with the audience with his use of the Force. they change all the rules of the Force, right? Like, because, I mean, they indicate that the dark side leads leads you down a path to abilities and things that you didn't even think were possible.
Right.
So it's like, that's kind of just like, it's like a one-off sentence, and then, like, they, like, implement it, right? So it's like, it's kind of weird, right?
Right.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and especially, like, because it's still conflicting with what we are already, like, if you even go back to Empire Strikes Back, Luke asks Yoda directly, is the dark side stronger? And Yoda says, no, it's not. Like, it's more aggressive, and it works off of different emotions than the light side. But then, like, now all of a sudden, like, we know Palpatine is trying to manipulate Anakin when he tells him about how powerful the dark side is. So we can't really trust him. But then they make it, like, canon, and we're like, oh, look how much powerful we are. Like, but you're not.
Right. And then, dude, it's, like, so confusing because, like when... There's so many things. It's, like, so confusing, dude. Like, oh, my God. Like, I mean, obviously, you have a greater understanding of, like, what's kind of possible with the Force. But even from what I've read, dude, like, some of the shit that they did was just like, what?
Yeah. There's a lot of what things. Like, to me, Rey as a Palpatine is a terrible idea. Like, I don't even think they should have brought the Emperor back.
Writing, dude. That is straight up the laziest piece of shit writing I've ever written. I was just like, so I was right about this basically just being a fucking remake of the original series.
I feel like...
They just changed minor details. Like,
I feel like...
Like, the outline is all the same, dude. You fucking look at it, dude. The outline is the fucking same, dude. And, like, it fucking... I called it after the fucking Force Awakens, dude. And then you're like, no. And then you're like, fucking The Last Jedi, you're like, okay, maybe. And now I'm just like, okay.
Well,
that is, like, undoubtedly, dude.
I feel like... Yeah, well, with The Force Awakens, J.J. Abrams played it really safe. I still think it's like we see similar things, but we're moving in a new direction. And then with The Last Jedi, like, literally Rian Johnson took so many risks, and I think that's why people hated it so much. Like, he tried to do so many new things or different things, like, that people just were like, what the fuck is this? This is not Star Wars. And then with this movie, like, J.J. Abrams is trying to say, no, we're still Star Wars, but... we're still trying some new things, but, like, it's still playing very safe. And, like, I think because Rian Johnson killed Snoke, J.J. Abrams was like, well, what am I going to do now? I guess we have to bring back the Emperor. Like, when you didn't have to. There's so many other options. And, like, I love the Ben Solo redemption story. I think it's one of the things that works the best with this movie. But at the same
Right.
time, I was convinced after he killed Snoke and after he assumed the title of, Supreme Leader, that he was not going to be redeemed. That he is the villain. So why do we need the Emperor? Why not just, finish? I like what they did, but you could have then brought in another somebody. Like, we see
Right.
other people running the First Order, which is another thing that I had to do a lot of research and backstory research to figure out what the fuck is going on, because it's so confusing to me that the rebels won, defeated the Empire, and 30 years later, the Empire, quote unquote, the First Order is in control again somehow. Like, why do we need a resistance when we are in charge of the fucking Republic? I don't get it.
Right.
So I had to research all this shit to figure out exactly how the First Order got all their power and why they're so significant, because it's never explained in the movies. And that is frustrating.
Dude, exactly, dude. I was just like, what the fuck, dude? Dude, so, like, one thing that, like, was, like, absurd to me, that was just, like, they play so unfair. So, because, like, I just wanted to bring it full circle with the whole use of the Force, right? I know this is, like, totally, like, backtracking a little bit, but, like, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, no worries.
So two major things, right, with the Force in this film that you're just like, what? Unless if you watched The Mandalorian first.
Oh, yeah.
Which, have you watched it?
I finished it, yeah.
Okay. Well, I haven't watched the latest episode, the one that came out Friday, but, like, the episode that aired the same day as the last,
the day before, yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, you see Baby Yoda, like, heal our boy from dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Or, no, not from dead, but, like, you see him heal, right?
Right.
That's the first time I've ever seen that happen, right? Am I wrong?
Have
you ever seen in a film? Not in a
film, no.
In a film.
No, never in a film.
So, I've never read it, and, I mean, my reading is a lot less extensive as yours, but from what I've read, I've never seen that either. So, with that being said, if you haven't even watched The Mandalorian, you still don't know that's possible. And you're just like, what? What just happened? When did this become possible? Right? And then, without even, first what they did was the whole passing of an actual object, right?
Right.
They kind of indicated that when it was like when Ben was trying to figure out where Rey was, and then he sees the Darth Vader mask, he's like, oh, that's where you are.
Right.
But that's just like them using the Force to project like mental warfare, essentially. Because like we know that's possible, right? But I did not know that you can actually fucking use the Force to grab an object out of fucking thin air, dude. When he grabbed the lightsaber, I was like, what?
I think
I knew it was coming almost. Like, I almost knew that it was going to happen, but I'm still like, what the fuck, dude? When it happened, I'm like, what?
Well, I think they did indicate that it was possible because in The Last Jedi, which I haven't watched in like 2 years, so I don't remember everything, but I do remember when he tried to have, like, him and Rey were like doing their little Force connection thing, and like when the conversation ended, he had rain on his gloves when it was raining where she was. So, like,
oh, okay. Maybe then. Maybe, I don't know though.
I think
it's still kind of weird how it all works, and like they do no job of explaining how that works. And it's just like, dude, that's like frustrating to me.
Well, it's also going against what they told us in The Last Jedi, where Snoke says he created that connection between them. Whether or not now they know how to use it so they can manage it or whatever, like. But if Snoke is gone, how can they, how do they even know how to connect, right? Like, is Palpatine still forcing him to connect? No, like, he wouldn't do that. That sounds stupid. Like, we don't really know what's happening, so we just know.
Right, yeah, it's like absurdly like confusing, dude. And it's just like, what?
And with the Force healing, I think you're gonna get one of three reactions. You're gonna get people who, like you, are like, okay, come on, like. really? You're going to have people that just sit there and roll their eyes, and then you're going to have people that are like, oh, shit, dude, that's fucking tight. Like, again, it's Star Wars. Nobody's going to you're not going to ever have one, like, you're never going to please everybody. So, you know.
But it's just like, dude, this, like, thing, like, don't get me wrong, dude, like, you get swept up in, like, everything, dude, and, like, at the time, you're like, oh, dude, this is, like, interesting, you know? But I will say, there was one thing, dude, and it fucking fascinated me, bro.
Mm-hmm.
So, and okay, to be fair, it took a lot of research, dude, after the film
Mm-hmm.
to figure all this out. So basically, Rey is a gray Jedi, dude.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to make sure we're on the same page here, dude, because I'm like, dude, there's no way she's not a gray Jedi, right? Like, I'm so confused. And, like, you get the indication that she is a gray Jedi, and to our audience, you're like, what the fuck is a gray Jedi? I'm going to explain in just a second. Just hold your fucking horses, all right?
All right.
You get the indication in A Last Jedi that she is a gray Jedi. But it doesn't come full circle till the end, till a lightsaber, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get more indication, so you get the first indication when she's on the island with Luke, and she, like, taps into the dark side. And then you get more indication throughout the film where she's still able to kind of pretty much inherently tap both sides. And then at the end, you're just like, with the lightsaber, you're just like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't explain any of that, right?
No.
And you're just like left wondering, like, what? Okay. So for anybody who's very confused, what is a gray Jedi? What does that mean? Basically, it's in the middle of being a Jedi and a Sith. You basically use both sides, and that's what Rey does throughout the film. She taps into the dark side many, many times using rage. Then she fights back against it. She uses the light side. She uses dark side, light side, dark side, blah, 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 right?
Yes.
So, one thing about, so something you guys should all know. Basically, Jedi, the history of a Jedi, dude, they basically inherently do nothing until they absolutely have to, right? Like, they don't get involved in, like, politics and stuff unless if Sith are involved with it, right? Then they're very much a reactionary kind of people, like, set of people. So the Sith are more, like, aggressive. They, like, take charge. They take what they want and all this stuff. So a gray Jedi is somewhere like in between. They use both sides of the Force as they see fit.
Right.
And, like, they're more a lot of the time they're more geared towards the light side a little bit. But, like, they don't follow, like, the Jedi code. Like, for instance, like, they use the Force in order to make a difference and get involved, essentially.
Right.
And agree with me or disagree with me, Qui-Gon Jinn was also a great Jedi, right?
Yeah, more or less. Like, I mean, he kind of just didn't give a fuck what the council had to say, like, he was going to do what he wanted.
He was inherently into the light side of everything, but he totally never followed the Jedi code. Like, he always, like, went against the council and stuff, and you're not supposed to do that sort of thing as a Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, we're even told from, like, Mace Windu, like, we're protectors of the peace. We're not warriors. Like, we're not soldiers. Like, that's not what the Jedi are. And then even in Empire Strikes Back, when Luke and Yoda first meet, Luke says, "I'm looking for a great warrior," and Yoda says, "Wars not make one great." Like,
Right.
we're told the Jedi are supposed to be these peacekeepers and everything else. Like, they aren't sitting there until they're forced to with the Clone Wars, like, taking action. But
Right,
we don't know. We never learn anything about Gray Jedi or anything like that, or
right. So, like, inherently, like, the reveal at the end is, like, super unfair. Because like I said, dude, this film, more than any of the other films, I feel like, grab heavily into the extended universe and pull a lot of ideas from the extended universe and implement them.
Right.
And, like, it's cool, but you have to explain it.
Yeah, I think people are going to see it.
Anything in this film.
people who like this is the thing we do talk about a lot is like people who get it are gonna be like, oh yeah, that's so cool. But people who don't, if they're not gonna understand it and they're gonna be lost, then it's a bad choice. You have to explain these things. Whereas like I believe that you can watch The Mandalorian without having watched Star Wars and still like kind of get it, right? But people who have seen Star Wars, they're going to get so much more out of it, but it still works as its own thing. And if it doesn't, then you need to change it so that it does, right?
Right.
So, like, that's just kind of where we're at. And with Rey, okay, me and you need to explain this to Daniel, because Daniel, who is colorblind, tried to tell me that Rey's lightsaber at the end was 100% green.
Oh, my Lord.
And I said, Daniel, it was yellow. That's what was so significant about it. And he's like, no, dude, I was green. I'm like, dude, you're fucking colorblind. What do you know? He's like, dude, I can see green and yellow. Okay.
Yeah, dude, there's like a special... And, like, dude, there's like a lot of different, like, meanings, but, like... And I'm still kind of discovering the meaning of, like, the yellow, right? Like, I'm still kind of learning about it.
Yeah, well, and again,
like,
all the meanings come from either fan theories or extended universe. Like, nothing is ever confirmed within a movie, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's all extended universe. But even, like, Palpatine always feared, Force users that had, like, a yellow...
Mm-hmm.
A yellow, lightsaber.
Yeah.
Because, like, they're inherently different and stuff like that. Like, there's, like, a whole thing about it, which we really don't have time to explain everything.
Yeah.
You guys should definitely go on YouTube and, oh, man, I wish I remembered the fucking name of these YouTubes, dude, because I found some really good people that do a really great job explaining a lot of extended universe stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, like we said, you can't just be like, I'm going to take this concept from the extended universe, play super unfair with anybody who hasn't read the extended universe stuff, and then just like implement the idea.
Well, especially because when Disney bought Star Wars, they said none of the extended universe is canon. It's not, for what we're making, it doesn't exist. So people who would have been interested don't care anymore. Like, and then you incorporated so much of it into this movie that you're gonna lose a lot of people. But
dude, and it was like fucking drenched in here.
Yeah,
I think they were so scared about losing the audience, and like two characters, I feel like, except for the Palpatine reveal.
Mm-hmm.
So they took risks with like Ben. I feel like his story arc was good. I actually wouldn't say necessarily was a risk, but they definitely took a risk with Rey's story arc, other than the Palpatine reveal.
Yeah.
But like in the grand scheme of things, like her being a great Jedi, all this stuff and whatnot, and like brilliant concepts, but they just have like poor execution of like explanations and stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
it does like breed like an interesting reaction, because now you want to know, like, okay, what does that even mean?
Right.
Like, other than, because anybody who doesn't know about lightsabers, because she that was her first own lightsaber, right? That was like her lightsaber.
Yeah, because
no other lightsaber was actually hers, right?
Right.
Yeah, she was always using somebody else's lightsaber. So anybody who knows how lightsaber works, has these things called kyber crystals. Kyber crystals binds with the Jedi.
Yeah.
And they take color based off of you. They basically meld with you, So, like, the fact that she always had a blue lightsaber and stuff with, like, loops and layers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. Like, she never had her own, so that was, like, the reveal. That was, like, the clue. Okay, she's a Grey Jedi for sure. Which is, like, hella interesting, dude. I'm just like, dude, that's so cool, Because, honestly, I forgot what the quote of, like, how, like, there's the Sith, decree, and then there's the Jedi decree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Grey Jedi also have a decree as well.
Right.
And it's like a mix of both of them, and it's like super cool. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Grey Jedi are kind of like nothing now.
Yeah. And like, again, like we're talking about all this stuff that like is alluded to, but like people who have, you can't ask your audience to do that much work, So that's why the movie.
Yeah, most people are not willing to, dude. you don't. I spent countless hours watching these videos. By the way,
Right.
like it wasn't just like a 1 or 2 hour video that I discovered. I had to watch X, Y, and Z video that led to another X, Y, and Z video that led to the video that I initially found, and I was like, okay, that makes sense here.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that I found this one, and then that led to the next one, okay, that makes sense. And all of a sudden, it's like, it was a ridiculous amount of research, dude.
Yeah. I mean, so, like, let's talk a little bit about actually, like, what's in the movie. You mentioned you like, most of Rey's stuff. I agree. Like, aside from the Palpatine thing and then her adopting the name of Skywalker at the end, like, I get it. I just don't like it, Like, why can't she just be Rey? Like, why couldn't she just be, like, just Rey?
Right.
So
I almost feel like it's like more powerful if like she just like comes from another race. She's just like the original of her.
yeah, it is,
Like,
and I think that's what
like,
Rian Johnson was trying to do. Like anybody, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, you can be special. But like, they're like, nope, you're special because you're a Palpatine, and you're special because the Skywalkers took interest in you. Like, okay.
Right.
Like, it just feels like a weaker choice to me. Like, and I also didn't really understand her burying the lightsabers on Tatooine, a planet that Luke hated and Leia has no association with. Like, is it just because we are familiar with it? Like,
it's because where the story began.
Right. So that's where it ends. Okay, it makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, I get it from a writer standpoint, but it's like, it's so lazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, like, the reveal begs more questions. Okay, what happens to right now?
Yeah.
Like, what happens now? Like, it almost feels like now there should be more movies. But I don't want more movies for that. I want more movies if it has to deal with the Grey Jedi. Sure, I'm all for that.
Right. Yeah. The other thing that we're not told in this movie, but J.J. Abrams has told us in an article, is what did Finn want to tell Rey? Do you know?
Right, exactly, dude.
Do you know what Finn wanted to tell Rey?
That he loved her.
No. Well, see, I think that's what most people are going to draw the conclusion, and because it's not explained in the movie, and you constantly see Finn, like, always, like, drooling over Rey, that's what you're going to assume, and that's valid because they don't tell you. But what J.J. Abrams has told us in an interview is that Finn wanted to tell Rey that he's force sensitive, and that's why he was always concerned about her, because he could feel her, like, in trouble and stuff.
That's horseshit.
But again, it's something that we're not told.
That doesn't work, though, because I understand that only works if and only if Finn is the only deserter. Right? But now we find that there's more deserters.
Yeah, they're on that planet.
Because, right. So then there's nothing like inherently special about how or why Finn ever deserted when he felt bad about everything.
Right. Yeah.
This fixation that he's force sensitive, that's bullshit.
Right.
Show me a scene, please, because I've watched the other movies recently, and I would like to know what scene that I completely missed showing him being force sensitive.
Yeah, aside from in The Rise of Skywalker, where he's always like, "Oh, Rey's in trouble," or like always like trying to like think about Rey when she's in dangerous situations. That's it, because they don't build to this ever. Like,
oh yeah, because they never built it. And that was like a one-off like attempt.
Right.
At it, and it was horribly executed.
Like, it's very obvious that they did not have a roadmap or a game plan before they made these 3 movies. Like, it's incredibly glaring how little they planned out these 3 films. Like,
right, yeah.
But anyway, the kiss, right? Did you like that? Did you find it cringeworthy? Rey and Ben kissing.
I didn't. I mean, I kind of see it coming.
Yeah.
That like they build the lust for Finn towards Rey so much that like you're like, oh, but what about Finn? because like you just kind of assume that like Rey and Finn are going to end up together, but then like Ryan Johnson changed all that in The Last Jedi, and then like he built towards Rey and
Ben,
Ben.
Yeah.
And then this movie even totally built towards it,
Yeah.
But then you still have like Finn running around like a fucking love shark idiot, and then you're just like left wondering like, okay, what the fuck? So what? Because Ben died, Finn's still gonna get his chance? Like we're just like left wondering what the fuck happened with that. That was a loose end they didn't tie up. That was lazy writing. And you're just like, what the hell? Like, dude, who approved this movie?
Yeah.
Like, fucking seriously.
One of the criticisms I also read was like people said the stakes never felt that high, which, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with. I feel like there were we felt like, oh shit, if these super star destroyers get out there, they can destroy all the planets. But why do we care so much about destroying planets still? I don't get it. Like, I know you want to keep the star systems in line and destroy the planet, and then everybody else will be like, oh no, they're the bosses, we can't upset them, we have to comply. But like, okay, whatever.
And then what happens when nobody complies, and all the planets are just fucking destroyed, and now they have nobody to rule over.
Right.
It seemed like it was like overkill to have that many ships just like chilling, dude.
Yeah.
It was like fucking overkill as fuck, dude. We're just like, what?
Yeah.
It really didn't make sense, because then like the whole like plan to like destroy the receiver, but then there's one ship that they don't ever really indicate is an actual like different model from any of the other ships. So why couldn't they just like transmit from a different ship?
Well, and then they made us seem like that ship actually got the transmission, and so they don't need that tower anymore to send the transmission, and they destroy the tower, but the ship is fine. Like, but then all this, I don't get it. Like, something else could have happened. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Again.
Right. And then, dude, there's just like so many things. Like,
yeah, I mean, but like it's cool to see like the the lightsaber battle between Rey and Kylo was cool, and seeing Billy D. Williams.
One of the coolest fucking scenes, and then they ripped it away from us so quickly because it's like abruptly ends, and then just like Rey bounces, and then like you're left with like Ben's redemption and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was enjoying like the battle, and then they just stop it.
Right.
And I was like, no.
Yeah. It was, it's great to see Billy D. Williams back as Lando. Like, I enjoyed that. Just like this, it's a movie like similar to Phantom Menace and similar to Attack of the Clones. It has cool moments, but overall, they're not good movies, right? So, you can enjoy them and whatever else, but this movie I think also just fails because it's the third movie of a trilogy. It's the 9th movie of a saga. It has so much to do, and there was no plan for it. So, and it failed to do a lot of the things it needed to.
Yeah, they just didn't allot themselves enough time in order to plan it. They're just like doing back-to-back years, and then they skipped a year, and then we got past them, and then it's just there wasn't enough time. Right?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people were saying like, "Oh, this movie is retconning The Last Jedi," which I don't really agree with. But what I do think is that The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi both kind of served as setup films, but they don't work. Like they weren't advancing the story together. They were both starting new stories. So this movie now has to wrap up 2 other stories. So
exactly,
like it's just
not cohesive.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like as a whole, this trilogy, I feel like that's where we're at now. Is we have to talk about how did the trilogy work, and I don't think it really does work. Like The Force Awakens was good. I liked it, but after that, there are movies I enjoy. Even The Last Jedi I enjoy, but like it doesn't really work as one full cohesive story.
Right. No, definitely not.
But again, people hated the prequels, like when they came out, which I was totally unaware of because I saw them when I was like, Revenge of the Sith came out when I was 11. So, and then I saw Phantom Menace when I was 5. So, I was unaware of all the people bickering and arguing about how bad these movies were, and as a kid, I just loved them because it's Star Wars, and it's more Star Wars, and we get cool lightsaber battles. It was fucking awesome. But then you learn people actually hated them. But now, 15 years after Revenge of the Sith, people actually like those movies quite a bit. So where are we going to be in another 15 years? Are people going to all of a sudden love these movies? Is there going to be some legacy to them where when they come out, people hate them, and later on, people like them? What do you think?
Yeah, probably.
Like,
I just think a lot of people nowadays would love to be on the opposite spectrum of things, and they just love to argue about everything.
of course.
But it's just like difficult. You know, it's like I think a lot of people don't have their own opinion. To be honest, I think they seem like the mainstream of opinion or the opposite spectrum of the mainstream, and they just choose a side, right?
Yeah. Well, and the problem is like
it's like the film, right? They set up these things and then they don't explain it. That's like fans in their opinions. They don't explain why they don't like it. They just say it's not Star Wars.
right.
That's not an answer.
Yeah,
It's really not.
I think where it comes from, like, is people have different ideas, but nobody wants to challenge their own ideas. Like, where, like people when people ask, like literally, like my fiance didn't like A New Hope, but she likes Empire Strikes Back. But when she wasn't really enjoying Star Wars, I thought to myself, why do I love Star Wars so much? Is there something inherently great about Star Wars that makes me love it? And I had to think about it, and as I thought about it, I remember all the reasons I love it, what it taught me as a kid. I had to think, do I only like Star Wars because I watched it as a kid and it's nostalgia? Is that why I like Star Wars? When I really think about it, I find other reasons why I enjoy it. But I don't think people do that self-reflection enough. They just hold one opinion, and like out of context, that opinion works. But then when you put it in the context of the real world or anything else, it doesn't make any sense. And nobody wants to change or admit they're wrong or admit they don't know, because it's better to have an opinion and hold it strongly than to admit that you actually have no fucking idea what you're talking about and do the research to come to your own conclusion.
Right.
I don't get it. But like that's what it is. Like, if you see people argue on Twitter or Facebook, you read a lot of things that you're like, that's total and utter bullshit, like that these people are saying. And if they did any research, they'd find out that what they're saying is true in a bubble, but in context, it's not. And then, like, I'm not going to sit there and explain that to them because I don't want to argue with people because I know how it's going to go. So, like, or even I'll see something that I don't agree with and I'll look it up or, like, whatever, because it's better to admit you don't know. Like, me and you had this conversation because, you asked me a question about something having to do with impeachment, and there's no shame in having to ask somebody or do research to find something out. Instead, people just assume things and argue about it without and never fold. So I don't get it. Whatever. This is what happens.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So, like, even us, like, we don't agree. You and I don't agree on everything about Star Wars, but you let me have my opinion, and I let you have your opinion, and we're not toxic about it. But, we spend a lot of time on this podcast talking about how stupid some people's opinions are, but we don't tell them they can't have that opinion. We just explain why we don't have that opinion. So.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. But,
yeah, I just think, like, people are so afraid to challenge their own opinion because they're so afraid of being wrong.
Right.
Or looking, like, in their opinion. Like, I think a lot of people's opinion, like, they think that if their original opinion wasn't right, or if they now change their opinion, that makes them look stupid.
Yeah.
So people are so afraid of that, so they just stick to their ground.
Yeah.
No matter lack of evidence, lack of, like, logical debate, backing, or anything. Like, it doesn't matter. People will stick to what they believe, and that's that. That's why I challenge anybody that says, like, the DC films they did, like Man of Steel and BBS and stuff, why?
Right.
Why are they good? Please explain to me.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I can point out a million things wrong with them, even while they're fucking horrible.
Right, and again,
just like this film, I'm pointing out a lot of things that it just completely just doesn't work, and was a fucking subpar movie at best.
Yeah.
some really cool themes, some really cool action, and special effects and music and stuff, doesn't make it a good film.
Right. And that's the thing is like, a lot of people are going to see this movie and they're just going to not think about it ever again. They're just like, oh yeah, I liked it, which, I did, but then I think about it as well. And as I think about it or like hear other people's opinions, I don't say, well, you're wrong because I liked it. Like I listen to it and I think about it. Do I agree with them or no? No, not really. Or yeah, I agree with that. Like it's okay to feel like that. But, I think, I don't know. Anyway. It's like people get so caught up in what they think, and then if you don't agree with them, you're wrong. But like, how do you ever progress if you can't come to some kind of understanding or think logically about some things? Like, I admit that I love Star Wars and I love the Rise of Skywalker, even though I've said bad things about it, because I love Star Wars. But again, I'm not gonna be blinded by that and be like, you're wrong for hating this movie for all the logical reasons you've expressed.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and I don't think you, like, me and you, we agree on a lot of the problems with the movie. You don't hate the movie, from what I'm gathering. You just wish that it accomplished what it should have accomplished or explained things that it should have, and it would have been much more interesting.
Right. I just think it's such an incomplete story.
Right. Right. And again,
it's like, I don't hate it by any means. I was not good.
Right. I will tell you guys, it's not a good story, and it's not really a good movie, but I still loved it, and that's okay. Like, that's just how it is. Do we have to do all the, the classic ranking Star Wars movies or top 5 now, or are we gonna do any of that? Do we care?
No.
Okay. I think this, as far as where this movie would fall. For me, it's somewhere probably like 7 or 6 out of 9. So take that for what you will. But yeah, anything else?
That's why I feel like letter grades are so much better.
Oh no! I was saying 7 or 9, like out of the saga.
Oh.
Like.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I put it like, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Because.
But like, I love some of the ideas that it introduces. That's why it's like kind of like to me, guys. Honestly. Okay, letter grade. Yeah.
Letter grade. Enjoyment a B+. Actual quality of like story and movie. Like C- or D+.
Interesting. I'll just give it one grade. I think kind of enjoy it. But like, I think as a grade for a movie, it was a solid B. Yeah, I think it's pretty fair. It would be.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's like so incomplete, and like I've just spent the entire podcast explaining why I believe that. And
yeah.
Like, even though there's like some really great things about this film, that doesn't change the fact that so many things are left unexplained, so many things are left unwrapped up. That how can you possibly give this movie a B? How can you even really give it a C? To be honest, like. Maybe. If you presented a good argument, I could accept a C from this film, but nothing higher than that. You know what I mean? It's to me impossible.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I understand because
bad highly of the story, the plot, and everything.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I get it because the most important things about a movie are the story and the plot. I give this movie credit where it probably shouldn't get credit. Like, I don't think movies deserve credit for doing the things they should do. Like, in this day and age, movies should be beautiful. They should have great special effects. And if they don't, then that's a really bad problem. Like, they just should, because that technology exists, and if special effects are bad in a movie, like, it's bad. If they're great, like, you don't really get credit for that. You shouldn't get credit for that, right? So,
I think you should get credit for maybe music,
Yeah.
know,
I mean, I can't
acting.
really take away any points, you know, for like.
Acting wise, the movie was great. I think, unless I think.
I feel like the movie
Oh.
just really struggles when it comes to the writing and the plot, and I think a lot of people might miss it like we did initially because of how fast the story moves. And I think it's okay for a story to move fast, but you have to give time and beats for the emotional moments or anything else to really settle in. Like, this is one of the things I talked about with the first Spider-Man, the Marvel did, Homecoming. Like, every shot feels like it enters one beat early and stays one beat late. And it's really cool how, like, the emotional resonance that certain things have because you're sat there with it for that extra beat. Whereas this movie, it's just like go, 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 go. And, like, you never have any moment to process what's happening.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
But,
So,
yeah. So, that wraps up our discussion. Make sure you guys share your thoughts with us. We're very accepting of everyone's opinions. On Twitter at Nerdy Boys Review. Yeah. So make sure.
But if your opinion differs from mine, that's fine. But I'm just saying, I would challenge the fuck out of you, and like, I might come at you hard, and it might seem kind of harsh. Just like, just like anything else. Like, if you express your opinion, you gotta be ready to freaking defend your stance on whatever it is,
Yeah. And hey, guys, like, you've listened to this podcast, I'm sure, for a while. Scott does the same thing to me. He'll challenge me. Why do I think this? And, if I can't give him an answer, that, I have to really, have a meeting with myself to figure out why I hold certain thoughts and opinions. So,
right?
it's just.
I mean, if I agree with what he's saying, I will challenge him.
But that's what it is. I mean, it's important to grow by challenging yourself. So, follow us on the socials at Nerdy Boys Reviews on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. Nerdy Boys Review. Check us out, guys. And that's everything we have for you. So thanks for tuning in. And we are your hosts. I'm Nerdy Boy Christian.
And I'm Nerdy Boy Scott.
And as always, we have one message for you, and that is stay nerdy, boys.